And we are recording.
Okay.
So thank you everyone for joining us and coming back to our event today. We have a very special speaker. You're going to enjoy this, and she will be giving us some information that will be very impactful on our lives and our health for the rest of your life. So I have with us today Dr. Stacy Musselman. Stacy has a master's degree in nutrition. She has a PhD, doctorate degree in natural medicine, and she knows about as much about health as anybody I've ever met in my 50 years of being involved in this field. So we're very happy to have you with us today, Stacy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very blessed to be here. I can't tell you how much joy it brings me to not only talk about what I love, but to turn the light switch on in people.
Yes,
And I
yes,
truly feel that, and look, I have goosebumps now.
yeah,
I truly feel that when you turn that light switch on and you have that connection, people never see the world the same. And it's just a lovely thing to do. And we all have that power to connect to people. But when you work and you do your work through passion and you find your whatever you do for the rest of your life, you find that out of passion. That's what I did. I followed my passion,
right,
and it's truly not work. I
right.
mean, I can put in 16-hour days, and yes, I'm exhausted, but I can't wait to wake up in the morning, and I don't want to go to bed because I'm so excited. So it's
Exactly.
wonderful.
Well, that's how it should be for everyone.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
if
how I
you
got
do,
started, actually. I went to the University of Central Florida, and my undergraduate degree was in communicative disorders, and I was interning in the clinic, and I would see these children come in with developmental disorders, and what drove me crazy was the parents was feeding kids in strollers candy, and they would come in for a session with me, and they would have grape juice in their bubby bottle,
sugar,
and
sugar,
and I
sugar.
and
Yeah,
yes, and everything that was on their tray and their snacks didn't resonate with me. And when I spoke to my leads about it, they looked at me like I had three heads. And I said, well, I need to have a better how what has propelled me in my education is how do I speak to people better to be able to talk to the masses.
right,
So digress a little bit. In the clinic, my leads would look at me like I had three heads, and I
right.
said, and I said, what they're putting in their body just doesn't. And at the time, I was doing figure and fitness shows. I was very active in working out, and having that background, I said, well, let me know more so I can have conversations with people, and people that are higher up, and people that are more educated than myself.
Right,
How do I break down this barrier? And that's when we'll talk about the functional blood chem. I don't
right,
understand why there's such a barrier between holistic alternative methods, which more people are seeking,
right.
and okay, well, you go to the doctor and you get a pill. That doesn't resonate with me either. So
Well, really, the whole focus really is the whole emphasis is of what you do in holistic health in general is we're trying to prevent disease.
100%. You want to look for the physiological trends in the blood work,
Yeah.
not wait until you get a diagnosis.
Well, if
So
you see it, you want to find that imbalance or, whatever it is there before it manifests into something
in a
that's
specific
serious.
organ or gland that there's going to be an issue with. And
Yeah,
that's and with blood work, what's so wonderful is actually blood work, blood chemistry panels,
right.
that actually is a functional diagnosis,
Mhm.
or means of functional way to look. People just don't know how to look for it.
Right,
So
right.
very simply put, you don't just wake up with diabetes. And we're not talking about childhood diabetes. We're talking about, let's say 35 and over, or 25 and over. You don't just wake up with diabetes. You don't wake up with heart disease. You don't wake up with high blood pressure.
Mhm.
These are issues that have been
Been
packing on over the years
been
because of
building in the body, been
correct because of
building. Right,
choices. And
right.
those choices were made on previous education back in the day. I don't know if you remember, but on the food pyramid, their food circle, they
Mhm.
had a butter, a margarine, and a bread, and the doctors were smoking a cigarette, and the food pyramid had a margarine area, margarine, I don't eat it. I
Oh,
can't
I
say it,
know.
but they
Mhm.
had this margin. If you look back, it really is disturbing. So
Mhm.
now what we're seeing is, especially in older populations, they're very set in their ways because they don't know any better. And it's not their fault. They were never taught the proper ways. So what I like to do is be able to talk to lots of people, turn on the light switch, have people ask me questions. Let's be transparent. Let's not go to the doctor just when you feel unwell. So when people feel unwell, they go to the doctor, and there's a standard range. And that standard range, whether you're in New Hampshire, California, Florida, or Texas, that could be different because it's based upon a bell curve of the sickness of the population.
Right.
So when you're feeling unwell, you go to the doctor, you say, I don't feel well. Well, they say, well, your
Mhm.
blood tests look fine.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I still don't feel well. Well, come back when you have diabetes. You don't have diabetes yet, but come back when you do, and we'll give you, that prescription,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
drug.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have heart disease yet, but come back when you do, and we'll give you that statin. You don't have high blood pressure yet, but
Right.
come back and we'll give you that
Exactly.
drug.
That's what Western medicine does.
Exactly. So
Waits until the disease manifests, then they
and
treat
then
it.
they give you a drug.
Yeah.
And what I
You
believe
give your drug, right?
is treating the individual, not following a protocol that someone has told me that I have to follow. Everybody's different, and how we got into that state of
Mhm.
dis-ease is different for everyone. Was
Right.
it stress? Was it food? Was it genetic? What's going to,
Right.
how we're going to be when we get older. Once we look at those physiological trends in the blood, then we can
Right.
make those little changes. So when I was in the clinic at UCF, seeing the children eat the sugar, went back for my master's, understood that I was able to speak to people about it in a different light, and
Right.
then got turned on to this beautiful world of natural medicine. My mother ran the cardiac center at Stanford. My
Wow.
father was an administrator, grew up in the belly of the beast, and
Mhm.
grew up in hospitals. And I can tell you, I've never heard. Mother died of a bad heart, ran the cardiac center at Stanford, drank whole milk, ate pizza, and smoked. And
Right.
I would come down with my rife and my crystals, and I
Mhm.
would,
Yeah.
and I would be eating my sprouts. And I'm plant-based myself. And if I don't have sprouts or live food in my day, I don't feel right.
Right.
And once we get on that path, I want everybody to understand that if they manipulate their diet and add live food in, at the very least, you feel alive. We were talking about the primordial.
Right.
I love this. When the first sip I take, it's like, oh, okay, I'm back. I'm
Yeah.
back to feeling amazing.
You
So
feel
moving forward now,
one sip and it enlivens because you're
100%.
eating live food.
Yeah, the bioavailability of the frequency of
Yeah.
the earth is what we need. We're earthlings. We need to walk on the
Right.
ground with our shoes off. We need the sunlight. We need to communicate with others. We need to have physical touch. We need to be able to have open lines of communication. And
Right.
that's what led me down the road of finishing my doctorate, doing my dissertation research and intentional focus breath work. And then now what we're going to talk about is the
Right.
functional blood chem.
Well,
So
let me ask you that because I've been into the natural healing for around 50 years, and I've been exposed to um, different
modalities?
means of
Mhm.
diagnosing. Okay, I've
Yes.
been exposed to Dr. Bernard Jensen with the iridology, where you can see
Yes.
in your eyes what's going on in the body to
Yes.
detect early symptoms.
Which is a
Are
good
you
which is a good library as well.
right? The
Yeah.
Ayurvedic pulse
Yes.
diagnosis. I've been
Mhm.
exposed to that at high levels of practitioners of that,
Mm.
and they all seem to be um, directed towards early detection, like you. But you
Yeah.
use the blood. Explain why you use the blood and what the advantage of.
Because it is, well, first, it's a library of the body. The blood
Okay.
never lies, and everybody's familiar with it. So when someone feels unwell, they go to the doctor. There's a standard range, which is different. So it runs on a bell curve, right? So let's say it comes like this, goes like this. I'll do it like this, right? So it goes on a bell curve. 2% and 2% are unwell. Then and 95% of the population as well. So if you're feeling unwell, you go to an allopathic, traditional Western medicine doctor. They look for you to be in that 2%. And if you hit that number in a standard range, then you get your pill. But if you have inflammation, bloating, um, uh, I don't want to get too medical with the term, heartburn, allergies,
Right.
you have all these symptoms of feeling unwell, but you're told your blood works fine. Well, what really turned me on to the functional blood chemistry analysis is because I can look for the physiological trends in the body and
Mhm.
find out, okay, well, you're this far away from optimal. Let's tweak things a little bit, meet you where you're at so you don't have to wait until you get on that pill.
Mhm.
So if you're having, discomfort, if you're having inflammation,
Mhm.
well, I don't want to, all my protocols are non-synthetic, non-invasive, and I don't want to treat with a synthetic Band-Aid because once you have an issue that's manifested in the organ gland or, anywhere in the body, it didn't just happen there. And we're not talking about injury, we're talking about, you know,
Right,
chronic illness, hence the word chronic
right.
that got there.
It
So
all starts with inflammation too, doesn't it?
uh, it all starts, there's two ways that information comes in the body, endocrine and digestive. So
Okay,
that's my first question is what's screwing up the information? Is it the belly? So the gastrointestinal tract, that's a big part of it.
mhm,
And when you're looking at maybe having fatty liver or when you're looking at
mhm.
anything that a synthetic Band-Aid would treat, it got there from a different way.
Right,
It didn't just start manifesting there.
right,
So if you're having leaky gut syndrome, well, you probably don't have, as much hydrochloric acid in your belly as you need, or you're not digesting properly. So
right.
when it comes to inflammation, what's great is you can, instead of saying, oh, well, you don't have, okay, you've been diagnosed with inflammation. Well, why? Well, is it because you're not digesting and assimilating the proteins properly? Is it because, certain things are off? So when you look at functional blood chem, you can look at
You
different
can determine
biomarkers.
that. You can determine that from the blood,
Yeah,
how they got the inflammation.
yes,
Okay,
you can see the physiological trends of what's off and what's going on rather than just treating it with an
right.
anti-inflammatory. Like
Amazing.
an example would be so that would be for arthritis. You know, diabetes, heart disease, any of the major issues that
Right.
Americans are taking
Diabetes
drugs
and
for.
heart disease would be the two biggest, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and uh, uh, there's so many that are treated with drugs that had they taken the blood test and looked at it through functional eyes, they wouldn't have had to go on that drug.
Mhm.
And I'm no judgment. Do whatever you need to do, but through my training and through some amazing mentors that I heard speak, back at a
Sure.
quantum summit.
Right.
Dr. Dickon Weatherby is one of my favorite mentors. He's fascinating.
Mhm.
And by looking, so to go back to when you asked about why the blood work, well, people know that. They know they go to the doctor, they don't feel well. The doctor says, well, your blood work's fine. So what I do is I take that blood work and I look for trends in the blood work to find out, okay, well, how far away from optimal are you, and how do we get you back? Because
Right.
if they're like with stones, you have a stone, what do they want to do? Maybe remove the gallbladder, how,
Sure.
which love and light to all surgeons, and I'm so thankful that they're on our planet, and that's amazing. And
Mhm.
but to take something out, why don't we look at biliary insufficiency? Why don't we look at what's going on in that gallbladder and the
What
liver?
created that stone?
Exactly. And so
Right.
that's what I do. And to go back to the what I said about information coming in, when you're stressed, people don't feel well, they feel tired, they feel fatigued, they feel stressed. Well, is that because of what you're eating, or is it because of the information that you're taking in? We as humans are very sensitive to electronics. I myself am very sensitive. So I protect myself with EMF protectors, and I would say 90% of the population looks at me like I have three heads. They're like, well, what is that? And then the two greatest tools in my toolbox are
Right.
the functional blood chemistry analysis, and then quantum reflex analysis, which is organ and gland specific testing with meridians and muscle testing. And
Okay.
most people don't know, I would say 99% of the population doesn't know what that is. And I love it because when you find your interference fields in the body, it's amazing how
Right.
sensitive people are to their phones and electronics. So if you have someone hold a phone and you muscle test them, their weakness is
Or
immediate.
yeah. Just being around a computer, the closer they are to the computer, you can tell by muscle testing.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be, so when I talk to people, I like to find out what's going on in your environment. How did you get that way?
Mhm.
If you just,
The bottom line is you use a combination of things,
yes,
muscle
those are my,
testing and blood work. Yeah.
Yes, those are my two greatest tools. And
Right.
I love quantum reflex analysis. I love Premier Research Labs. They have the cleanest products.
Mhm.
And immediately when I bring that into someone's field, I can immediately turn them on,
Mhm.
meaning that they test strong, um, based upon where I found the interference fields. So if
Okay,
they're lacking,
you just mentioned that product. What exactly does that product do?
so Premier Research Labs is a wonderful, um, laboratory that makes supplements, from Dr. Bob Marshall. He's no longer with us, but he was a pioneer, an absolute pioneer.
Mhm.
And he developed, these amazing clean products. And what I love about Premier Research Labs is when they take in the resources to make the liquid or a pill. Well, first of all, they don't use any magnesium stearate, which that should be
They
a
don't use any,
given.
what was that?
Magnesium stearate,
Oh, okay.
you shouldn't have that in the capsules. It's like a lubricant to get things in. You shouldn't have that crap in there anyway.
Right.
You don't need that. So that's not in there, but it's DNA sequence testing on the raw sources. So when they take a source, if it doesn't show the biological availability of being live source from the earth, they don't take the product,
Oh.
which that's important to me, because
Mhm.
if with this, mm, I feel the life, and
Right.
I want to feel the same things out of the products.
Right.
So,
Right.
so when I talk to people, I don't like to dose. I can dose things out based upon their blood work, which is fine, but I don't feel that a pill is the answer. So what I like to do is find out their environment and hit them as a whole and find out, okay, well, how do we fish? I don't know if you've heard the fish tank in the water.
Oh,
Um,
go ahead. Explain that to
Comparison.
people.
Yeah, so
It's a great analogy.
if you have a fish that's not feeling well, you don't just give the fish a pill. You check the pH in the water. You look at what kind of food you're feeding the fish.
The environment.
You
The
clean the
environment.
tank. You
Right.
don't give the fish a pill.
Right.
I don't have any fins, but I know that if I'm not feeling well, I should pretty much start with my environment. Okay.
Right.
Am I spending too much time slouched? Is that why I have pain? What am I putting in my body?
Right.
And what I have found, so I also do corporate wellness coaching, and I've been very blessed to work with some huge corporations, Florida Power and Light, Waste Management, and I would see hundreds of people at a time. It was like a revolving door. Come in, get a little prick of blood, have a small panel, excuse me, and then be able to give them some coaching on how, excuse me, some coaching on what they can do better. So with what I saw with that, and that's what led me into the functional blood chem was wow, I'm getting the small panel, triglycerides, glucose, having a conversation with thousands of people over the years, and we weren't speaking the same language. And I work with nurses, and I could hear the nurses conversation was, oh, what do you want? Okay, statin, what da, da, da. And I had a different approach, and I thought, well, it's time to have a conversation, a transparent conversation with people. So with the to go back to the blood work, the reason why I use it and it's my greatest tool is because everybody knows what it is. You
Right.
go to the doctor, you're not well, you get your blood work done.
Right.
But what the doctor's looking for is they're looking for a number to give you a drug. What
Right.
I'm looking for is the physiological trends to see how far away you are from optimal,
Yep.
and you're in dysfunction,
Yeah.
because people are in dysfunction way before they actually become in disease. They're
Right.
in dis-ease, and then they become disease.
Mhm.
So the neuroendocrine system, how we take things in and
Right.
process, and then we have the digestive system. So if we're not assimilating our input of our environment correctly, well, we need to fix that. And if we're not assimilating and digesting properly, well, then we need to fix that. And the GI is one of the first places that people should look. If you're having an issue where you're feeling lethargic, well, maybe you're not processing your protein. Not only that, but you're probably eating the wrong protein. So
Yeah.
there's so many different ways that you can go around meeting people where they're at, to break down that barrier of, you don't just have to take a drug. There's other
Well,
ways before you
and
get
you
there.
don't have to wait till you get to the point where you need the drug.
No, and that's what's
And
so
that's the
wonderful.
whole thing. And that's the sad thing about, um,
Western medicine.
yeah, a person goes to medical school for 8 years and all they're doing is learning to treat the symptom. They
Well,
aren't
they're following
learning.
they're following a protocol and I'm very happy, very blessed. Thank you so much.
I know.
But
Yeah,
but I don't.
that definitely has a place.
Mhm.
But just think if these,
It doesn't have a place in my, it doesn't have a place in
just,
my life.
just think if they, some of their training was about early detection,
Well,
which
that,
is what
well,
you're all about.
well, I wish that most of them knew uh, a blood, right, a basic blood panel is very small, and you really don't get that much information. I do a comprehensive panel of about 80 biomarkers because I
Mhm.
want to see where everything's coming. I want to see how
And they're
things
not
work
looking at
together.
that at all.
What's that?
They're not a typical
No,
medical
you go
doctor.
in, you say, you
They're
say,
not
listen,
looking at those 80 biomarkers.
no, no, not by any means. You go in, you say, listen, I'm feel, I don't feel well. Well,
Mhm,
they're going to run some things, and what they're going to look at is they're going to look for that marker of
mhm,
when they dose that drug out, or they're going to look for that marker of disease.
mhm.
What I do is I look for the trends in between to find out, okay, you're in dysfunction long before you get in disease. This is why you feel
Right,
unwell.
right,
Let's change that environment and let's get you feeling better. And what's wonderful is if you meet people where they're at, then people are more open to it becoming a lifestyle. I want to live my best life for as long as I can. And the way for me to do that is I feel the energy from the food.
right.
And when you talk to people about that, sometimes they're like, well, what do you mean? I remember one person said, I said, we have to eat live. And they go, that live chickens? And for me, that got a chuckle out of me, but he meant it from the bottom of his heart.
Right,
People don't have these conversations.
right.
So I think if more doctors took the blood work and looked for trends, then instead of telling the patient, hey, come back when you have
Yeah,
uh,
come back when
uh,
you have diabetes. Come back when
exactly,
you have
exactly.
your
Come
heart
back when you need
failing.
a drug, and then come back
Yeah,
to me every month for that script, and I'll rescript and
yeah,
rescript.
yeah.
And I don't think it needs to get that far. And a big thing too is retesting. When you talk about alternative medicine, a lot of people are spending money now to see alternative medicine practices and functional medicine doctors.
Mhm.
And you go in, you get all these great supplements, but a lot of times there's no follow through. And with my quantum care program, that's a big part of my program is we need to have a follow up. We need to look at those same biomarkers. We need to
Mhm.
see if what you're doing is
So
working.
when somebody comes to you
Mm.
and you start working with them, how often do they come back and how does that
Oh,
work?
I have people that I've had for years. I
Mhm.
have some people that'll see me every year. When people first get in the program, it depends how far down the rabbit hole they want to go. Do we know what chakras are? Is that just too much magic? Are we,
Right.
how far, where are they? So I like to meet people where they're at. Some people see me once, feel amazing, and I don't hear from them again.
Mhm.
So the with the tools that I have, it's education and accountability is what I want to give to people, and being able to educate someone so they ask questions. I don't want to give someone a list of food and say, eat a grapefruit at 4 o'clock, take this out, don't do this, or have to muscle test them, once a week because they're neurotic about what they should
Right,
put in their body. If you educate them on what needs to go in the body and why and what it does, then you retain that information.
right,
We all got this far in life. We
right,
can certainly
right,
understand our bodies and how it works.
right,
We're not reinventing the wheel. We're just putting some better bearings on it, to make
right,
it move a little bit better.
right, right. Well, just when you think about the money that is spent on people who don't get treated until they're a diabetic and they're finally diagnosed as diabetic or with heart disease,
It's
just from an
astronomical.
economic point of view, if you could,
100%.
if
And
you,
what's interesting is that whole time they
Mhm.
had that blood work done that entire time. And if the doctors were better trained and educated and looking for the
Right,
trends, or some maybe care or don't care. I can't speak for that. I know that is truly my passion. But
right,
if you go to med school and you're trained, okay, well, this is what you do. They hit this marker, you get a pill, you're cranking out people. They had that information there from the very beginning. And
right,
if someone was told, hey, listen, you show dysfunction in these systems, which is going to lead to this, then they would have made those changes.
right,
So that information was there from the very first blood test, that information was there. But Western allopathic medical doctors don't use blood work as functional diagnosis and functional and uh, blood work is a functional means of finding what's there because the trends are there. You just have to look. You're
right,
not looking for that marker. What you're finding things that are subclinical, so they don't become pathological. So people can
Exactly.
make those changes in diet and lifestyle.
Right. Right. So it's all about our original topic of this, and that is finding what's wrong, finding those imbalances before they start to manifest in
Correct. Yeah,
disease,
bringing the
and
body back to an
making the
equilibrium.
corrections early so that you don't manifest into a real,
into
serious
into a
illness.
chronic situation where it has to be corrected, or not corrected, even managed. It's not going to be corrected, right?
Right, right,
You've gotten
right,
to a certain age, you're set in your ways, you're going to eat this, you're going to do this,
right.
and here you are now relying on a drug dealer.
So when
And
somebody comes to you, do you give them like a kind of like a holistic program,
I do.
including
I have
exercise and diet and
abs it I meet people where they're at.
okay.
Absolutely. And I put them in touch with the people that they need. If someone comes to me and they
Give
don't
me an
want to do.
example of a
Mhm,
typical person that comes to you
mhm,
and you and analyze them and the kind of things that you do with them.
mhm,
Just a
sure.
typical.
So when I say meeting them where they're at,
Mhm,
what that means is what is their lifestyle?
mhm.
With my intake, well, first, I like to have people before they even see me, I have them get their blood work done.
Okay.
Because without and what I find fascinating is most people are very they get excited when before we have our first conversation, I've got their blood work, I've asked them, they've told me some of their concerns, and once I look at those 80 comprehensive biomarkers,
You
I say,
know
hey,
what's
listen,
going
this is
on.
what I see, and everyone's like,
Yeah.
oh wow, because
Yeah.
that's what I see through my eyes. And
Mhm.
what I've learned over the years is instead of having someone come in and give me a monologue, I want to have a dialogue. And
Mhm.
so before people see me, I require that I have their blood work in front of me first. And
Okay.
I'm able to send someone to the home for an in-home treatment,
Okay.
i-
That's
in-home
very good.
collection. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
in-home collection, or they can send me their panels, but they have to be at least within in a month or two. But
Okay.
most people don't have this comprehensive look, and depending on what's wrong, if someone says, listen, I just don't feel well, let's take a look inside and let's see. And then the protocol would be based upon their level of comfortability. So my dissertation was research was based in intentional focused breath work in the chakra systems, and I was able to increase DHEA in postmenopausal
Explain
women.
what some people may not even know what the
Sure,
chakras are.
sorry.
Why don't you
So,
explain?
I'll go back, but so I took a group of people
Okay.
and I gave them a quantum care program of intentional focused breath work in the chakra systems, which is, let's just call it color breathing,
Okay.
5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. I had them journal what they ate. They were under strict orders not to change their diet, not to bring anything new, no new supplements. So for 40 days, the only thing you're doing differently is bringing in this color breathing in the evening and in the AM and PM. And
Mhm.
what I found is that I increased testosterone in men.
Mhm.
I was able to lower PSA in the men that had PSAs. One individual lowered it 4 points. Uh,
Wow. Just
and
from
I,
color breathing. How many
well,
times a
let's
day
go
do they do the color breathing?
twice.
How
So
many
it was,
minutes?
uh, the minimum was two. And when people got into it,
Oh,
what
so
I
they're doing
found,
it twice a day for 2 minutes?
that
That's
was the minimum that I required for the
okay.
people in my study.
Well, that's
Correct.
nothing. So,
I know.
uh,
And that was the minimum. But what I found is after the first, session that people, because instead of when you go to the gym, you're not going to lay and someone's not going to move the machine for you. You have to move the machine.
right.
So the science behind it is
Yeah.
that you're making those neural connections, right? You're
Mhm.
balancing and harmonizing the body, bringing it back to an equilibrium, so our body can do what it does best, which is thrive.
Right.
And I'm talking about people that are uh, don't have any dramatic deficiencies when they're born. Let's just say that the average person, okay,
Okay.
and you need to do that work. You need to do that self work. So
Mhm.
education, accountability is very important. And then when you harmonize and balance through breath and focusing on the
Right.
colors in the chakra systems,
Right.
what I was able to do is I was able to influence biomarkers more towards optimal. So out of
Okay.
80 biomarkers, I had one amazing 67-year-old woman. As women get older, everyone, we get our gray hair, we stop producing the things that we used to do when we were younger,
Right.
right?
Right.
So and DHEA is something that women and men, we stop producing that hormone. So
Mhm.
what I found is that with this intentional focused breath work at 67, she was able to increase it almost 40 points which is
Wow.
amazing. And this is in 40 days with no diet change. And men, one of my male studies was able to increase it almost 80 points in 40 days with no difference. So it's wonderful what you can bring into your environment and change in your body. So I myself believe in non-synthetic, non-invasive protocols.
Right.
So if someone comes to me and they say, listen, my numbers and my hormones, I really want them here. And I said, well, listen, I know I can get them here. I would refer them out to somebody because I need to stay in my lane. I have to
Mhm.
be very clear that I don't diagnose, cure, or treat. You
Right.
know, what I do is I bring the body back to balance so it can do what it does best. And
That's another word for that is homeostasis, right? When you bring it
correct.
back to the
Correct.
original
Yeah, if you
condition
have an
where it's
equilibrium in
supposed
the
to
body,
be, when
yeah,
it's healthy.
your body's doing what it's supposed to do.
Right.
And when we get stressed and we're in the go, so
Right.
we're go 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 all the time. Our body, there's sympathetic and parasympathetic, right? And when we're in go mode, we don't get to go into that rest and digest.
Right.
So the science behind I call it the color breathing. So we just keep it real simple on
Right.
the surface. But when you scratch under the surface, what you're doing is you're putting your body into rest and digest instead of fight or flight. And then when you're balancing those colors, you're actually, color has frequency. You're actually thinking about frequencies and colors. And I don't know how much time I have, but I had a jellyfish tank.
Mhm.
And it was an LED jellyfish tank on my desk, and I had to feed them. And I noticed that when it was color, and when I put on the red, they moved very fast. When I put on the blue, immediately they moved slow. And that
Wow.
was one of my light bulbs was these primordial beings that have no brain at a cellular level, these cells, and this is before red light. I know this was years ago, right? And
Right.
now red light therapy is very popular.
It's
People,
about frequency, right? And then the colors
100%.
have
So
frequency.
that
It's
red
all
color
frequency.
had a
Right.
frequency, and that cell, this little moon jellyfish at red immediately went fast. And if it was going fast and I hit blue, immediately it would just drop like that. It was
Amazing.
instantaneously. And I thought, wow, if their cells can do it, our cells can do it.
Right.
And that's what led me down the rabbit hole of my
Amazing.
dissertation work of balancing through the color system, starting in red, the chakra system, taking those breaths, relaxing in, you know, turning the tap on and tuning in, feeling in those healing downloads,
Mhm.
getting to that you have a perfect quantum healing self. And when you tap
Amazing.
into that that becomes you. And
Mhm.
s- and so I don't know if that answers your question, but
Well,
but
no,
but it depends how far the rabbit hole people. So
right.
people come and they want a pill. Okay, I only use Premier Research Labs. I
Right.
try to, food is thy medicine. So I look at where they're at and then make recommendations. Oh, you need some adaptogenic products. Okay, well, let's get a little blueberry, a little ginger, you need some
Well, I
detoxification.
think right, and I think food is so important
Mhm.
because you like as you're drinking that primordial,
Yes, yes,
which
it's
is
delicious.
such a phenomenal product, and I've been doing that for years. So food food is powerful. Food is medicine. That's
Food is
Hippocrates.
medicine.
Isn't that Hippocrates, right? Food is
Yes,
medicine. Medicine is food.
yes.
And so, I mean, they've known that for thousands of years. And
But over here in America, what we've done is
mhm,
we've gone to fast food and quickness,
yeah,
and it's so
right,
overrun with sugar and salts, and people are on the go, and it's all marketing. You sit down for an hour of TV, and it's oh oh uh I don't want to say any drug names on this, but it's like,
right.
oh, take this if you're feeling imbalanced. Oh, and then here's a Pizza Hut commercial, and here's a McDonald's commercial, and oh, you're not feeling well. Well, ask your doctor about
Right,
do, and they have all these cute little cliche songs. And instead of someone, I wish that I could come on and peek my head in and say,
right,
what are you doing?
right.
It's so
You must love the book China Study, right? With Colin
yes,
Campbell. Yeah.
yes.
And I think that's something that let our audience know this, just to understand this whole concept of healing and the importance of diet and food. Colin Campbell is one of the people that when the government would have their meetings with all the experts to determine the food triangle, the
Mhm.
food pyramid, he would be there. I mean, this is a guy that really is a very high level nutritionist, medical doctor, and he understands all this and
Yeah,
everything
one of
that we're
my
talking about today. If you read that book, it would put you in a good, I think,
yeah, absolutely.
state of mind to appreciate what Dr. Musselman does.
Thank you. One of
So,
the big things back in the day, they had like I said, the ads, doctors were smoking cigarettes,
yeah,
and and there was a margarine, a butter, and a bread on the wheel, because back then it was a wheel, right? The
yeah,
food
way out of the
wheel.
wheel. Yeah, right,
Yeah,
right,
so before it was a pyramid, it was a wheel,
right,
and now those things, we know how toxic they are, and so with me, I want to lift the veil. I want us to have transparent discussions. I
right,
want people to be able to look at their blood, because the blood never lies. It's a
right,
library, but look at those trends and not wait until you're a diagnosis.
right.
Find out where if you're feeling unwell, look at the trends and see what you can do to manipulate your lifestyle a little bit, and make some of
Perfect.
those changes.
Perfect. Okay, so I have one last question
Yes.
because this is one of my passions, and that is longevity. I believe that our bodies were designed to last to at least 120 years.
That's what I always say. We haven't discussed this before, but that's my motto. Our bodies can take about 120.
Yeah, and so that's my plan. And I
Yeah,
plan on
I'll
being
be there
able
with you.
to ride across the state of Iowa, which I do every year with my grandsons, with my great grandsons.
Yeah.
I'm doing it now with my grandsons in my 70s, but I want to do it with their kids and maybe even their kids because, it's, if they do what they're supposed to do and they, have lots of progeny so that I can enjoy them as a,
Yeah, I can
you
see it
know,
now. I can see it now.
but I do that. I ride 470 miles across the state of Iowa every year with my grandsons, and it's 70 miles a day, and sometimes it's over 100 degrees heat.
That's
And
amazing.
and I know that I can keep doing that if having goals, eating correctly, having the right attitude, all these things.
Understanding, understanding where the issue is, not
Yes.
not saying, okay, well, here's your diagnosis. You want to understand how you got there so you can make those changes. I don't want to be reliant on a pill. I want to be reliant on myself. I want to take accountability. I want to put, I like to put the health back in the hands of the people.
Right.
And I want people to take accountability so you can make better choices. Okay, I'm plant-based, but if someone's not going to give up the scotch and the cheeseburger, at least have a little milk thistle and a little kale, or maybe make
Yeah,
better
yeah,
decisions.
I agree too. I'm a fanatic, vegan have been for 50 years, and but I know that a lot of even my own children don't do it like I do it, and so I just try to get them to make the changes that are comfortable for them, and that's
And that's
about.
what's beautiful about the functional blood chemistry, is when you look at it and you look for those trends. If you know, okay, well, I'm here, and if I keep going down this road and living every day like I am, I'm going to get to here. And
Right,
when people see that I would say black and white, when people see that in color,
right,
in their
right,
analysis, it's like,
right.
wow, I have 100% probability of having thyroid dysfunction. I don't have thyroid. I'm not talking about me, but actually with myself, when I first did my first blood, I had 100% probability of thyroid dysfunction. Through my
Wow,
quantum care protocols of intentional focused breath work, completely alleviated that. And I
wow.
and now I
How
feel amazing.
long? How long did that take?
40 days.
Wow. So it's not like years. It's like
No, well,
usually days, weeks,
it,
months,
dep- it depends on how much you
depends on
put into it,
everything.
how
Yeah.
much you work. So, and I could see that in the outcome of the blood. So with my research, I took the outliers, the 10 top and the 10 bottom, and use the core of the core numbers, because you want to get rid
Right,
of the outliers that may have, done a little
right,
something they weren't
right,
supposed to,
right,
whatever. But
right.
and what I found is that every person that went in, that kept a journal of their breath work, all around the same time, they all went through the same things, which
Wow.
the
Interesting.
feelings, the emotions,
Mhm.
and you talk about longevity, when you put that body back in balance and it's doing what it's supposed to do, you're going to hit that 120.
I am. I plan on it. So if you could tell everybody how they find out about you.
Yes, wonderful. Well, let's see. I don't know if I should hold up a card, or
Sure.
just say my email,
Absolutely.
but it's called the Quantum Cure,
Okay.
and you can find me at Your Quantum Cure. Actually, I'm sorry, Care. I just recently changed that because I don't want to get in any trouble with anyone. So
Okay.
I apologize. So it's www.yourquantumcare.com. And
Okay.
then my email is info@thequantumcure.com. So
Okay.
once again, the
Your
website is
quantumcare.com.
correct. And then email is info@thequantumcure.com.
Okay, so you've got your email address on your website, right? So let's make sure they
Correct.
remember your website, which is
Correct. Your quantum care.
quantumcare.com. So the YOURQUANTUM care, CARE.com.
Correct.
Correct. So this has been fantastic.
Oh,
And
it's been
the
great.
time is over. We want to do this in a certain time frame, and we're there. It went like that.
Oh, yes, it did.
So,
I hope it was enlightening to some people and some light bulbs went off. So that would make me happy.
oh, I think everybody that watched this has learned something very, very valuable. And hopefully those who have never really looked at preventative
Mhm.
holistic medicine have learned something very, very valuable
Yeah,
here.
and ask questions. If I could say a leaving remark,
Yeah.
if I have people that come to me that say I have anemia. Well, how did you get? I don't know. Well, I have arthritis. Well, how did you get it? So if you have a diagnosis, ask those questions with your doctor. That's what they're there for.
Right,
So I'm not taking anyone away from anything. I'm adding is education and accountability. Go
right.
in and ask those questions. And if your doctor doesn't know, well, then maybe you can give me a call and we'll look for
Right.
those friends.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Stacy.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, it was wonderful having you. And I think that we've changed some lives. And that's what
Oh,
it's all about.
I hope so. It's always a pleasure. I will talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you very
All
much.
right, bye.
Bye-bye.